I'm Alicia from My Work Basket. Last week I showed you a video of how to do the Tunisian simple stitch, and this week I'm going to show you how to do the Tunisian crossed stitch. It's still a pretty easy stitch. It's a little trickier than the Tunisian simple stitch was. You can see here I've got a sample, and I'll show you kind of a better zoom in. If you're following me on the crochet along, this is square B. Mine ended up being this pale yellow. Yours can be any color you want. I didn't feel like the pale yellow was easy to see the stitches, so my sample stitches are going to be in the same pale blue that I used last week. If you're not joining me on the crochet along, I'd love to have you. It's over at myworkbasket.com, and each week I'm showing you how to do a different square, and in the end you'll end up with a completed throw. We're doing the Tunisian crossed stitch today, which comes out looking like this. To me, it looks almost like a traditional crochet, if you picture traditional crochet going more this way, but it works up in this direction. To do this, we're going to use a Tunisian crochet hook. Mine looks a little bit different than what you would usually get at the store because I have an interchangeable set of crochet hooks. Mine's from Denise. I do love it. I think it's absolutely worth the money if you crochet a lot or if you're interested in Tunisian crochet. So mine comes apart for different projects. The ones you would usually get at the store are just going to be a metal hook. They look just like a traditional crochet hook, but they're just much longer. When you're doing Tunisian crochet, you're going to need a larger hook than usual. So usually for a worsted weight yarn like I have, you would use just like a G hook or somewhere around there. But instead, I'm actually using a J hook because otherwise it will curl. You can see here it does still curl a little bit. But going up in hook size prevents that curling quite a bit. So to do this stitch, we're going to chain 11 to get started. So we have 11 stitches. And we're going to start in the second chain from the hook. This starts the same way the Tunisian simple stitch does. So we're not starting here, we're starting in this loop. And you're going to pull that up and you're going to leave this on the hook. In regular crochet, you'd go ahead and you do your whole stitch, but instead you leave these on. And you're going to go into each chain, yarn over and pull it through, and leave it on the hook. And you're going to do that all the way across your chain row. Just in the loop and pull it up. At the end of the row, you should have 11 stitches on. Okay? What we're going to do for the stitch, the first row, that's called the first pass of any Tunisian crochet. Every Tunisian crochet stitch is 2 passes. That pass is the same as the simple stitch. And the second pass is also the same. So we're going to yarn over, pull through just 1 chain, yarn over, pull through 2 chains, and you're going to continue to do that, yarn over and pull through 2 chains all the way across the row. Yarn over, pull through 2 of the loops. And when you end, you'll have 2 and you pull through both of those. Now this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. After you do each row, you get these ladders. And so for Tunisian crochet, you hook in each one. But for the crossed stitch, you're going to skip one. So we're going to, you always skip this one. This is your increase loop. You only use it if you're increasing your stitches. We're going to skip this loop, and we're going to actually go through this third loop. We're going to yarn under. We're going to put the hook under the yarn. We're going to yarn over and pull it through, and we're going to leave that on the hook. And then you can see the second loop that we overpassed. We're going to go back in there, go under, yarn over, and pull it through. That's creating this little X'd stitch. And you're going to do that all the way across. So you're going to skip the next one. You're going to go in that one. Then you're going to backtrack to the one that you skipped. Go under the loop, yarn over, and pull through. You're going to do that all the way across. So you're going to skip one and then go back to it. Skip the next one. And then you're going to go back to the one that you skipped. When you get to the end, the first row isn't too bad, but it does get a little bit tricky here at the ends as you go on. So you're going to go under this loop, this last loop, you're going to pull that up, then you're going to backtrack one more time and pick up the one that you skipped. So you'll have these crossed kind of twisted looking stitches on your hook. And you'll see you still have 11 stitches. And the second pass is the same. You're going to yarn over, go through just one loop, and then you're going to yarn over and go through 2 loops all the way across. 2 loops at a time, yarn over, go through 2 loops, yarn over, go through 2 loops, all the way back across the row. That's your second pass for the Tunisian cross stitch. And I'll show you just one more time. So we're going to skip this one, that's our increase. We're going to skip this first row, and we're going to go in this third loop. We're going to go under, yarn over, and pull through. Now you're only going in the top loop of your ladder. So we're going to backtrack, yarn over, go through it, and you're leaving all those stitches. So here's the next one. We're going to skip this one. We're going to go through just the top loop of that stitch, pull through, backtrack for the one we passed, skip this one, go under this loop, pull through, backtrack to the one we passed, pull through, and as you can see here, as you get to the end, they just start to get a little more crowded. So you make sure you get that end piece, and then go back for the one that you passed. As you build a block or a pattern, you'll notice these two, the beginning and the end, start to get a little more confusing, but I know you can do it. So just make sure you're paying attention to which loop is where. And then again, you're going to do the same pass. Loop and go through 1 loop, yarn over, go through 2 loops, and you're going to do that all the way across. And you'll have those ladders. Now that we have our sample swatch with about 5 rows done, what I'm going to show is actually show you 2 different ways to end off your squares or your project. As you can see, after you finish a row, you end up with these ladders, and you could just pull your stitch through, close it off, but well, that's just not pretty. So you want to do a little bit better than that. Now, if you're following my crochet along, the way the pattern has you do it is actually the simple way. That's the same way you do for the Tunisian simple stitch. And the way you close off that one is you skip this increase loop, you go into just the very first loop, yarn over, and go through both loops on the hook. Then you go through the next one, yarn into the loop, go into the loop, yarn over, and pull through both. And what you're doing is, instead of holding these stitches, you're picking them up and just immediately slip stitching them right off in order of how they are on your square. There's nothing wrong with this way. But what happens when you get to the end, as you can see, is that your pattern just doesn't match up. And make sure when you get to it, you get that last loop as well. So as you can see, I'm just going to pull mine through. It looks okay, but this last row is just not in the same pattern. It's just like the Tunisian simple stitch looks. So the way that I prefer to do it, I worked up another square, and I'm going to show you another way to end it. The way that I prefer to end these squares is to keep going in the crossed pattern, but to end them off. So as you can see here, notice how the stitches do start to get kind of a little jumbled, especially at the beginning or here at the end. But what I like to do is you skip this, that's the increased row, skip the second loop, yarn through the third loop, yarn over, and pull through both. Then backtrack to that second loop that you skipped, put your hook through, yarn over, and pull through both. Skip the next stitch, yarn over, chain through both, backtrack, just like you're still doing the crossed stitch, but instead of keeping all the loops on your hook, you're working them off as you go. This is going to give you a nice finished look on your square when you're done. Make sure when you get to the end, they do start to jumble a little bit. Pick up the last loop, yarn over and pull through both, and then backtrack to the one you missed, yarn over and pull through both. And you'll just see the pattern that you end up with follows the cross stitch pattern all the way to the end. So that's the way that I prefer to finish off my crossed pieces. And here you can see the example of how the two look at the end. You have your 1 or 2 samples. If you didn't crochet along with me, feel free to rewind the video and work along with me and get your practice in. Hopefully you now know how to do the Tunisian crossed stitch. It's a fun little stitch. And then you can work on your blocks for the crochet along. If you want to join me on the crochet along and you're not already, it's over at myworkbasket.com. And we'll be making the Lion Brand Tunisian throw. The pattern link and everything is there on my website. Next week I'll be showing you the next stitch for the throw, which will be block C. And so there'll be a whole other video teaching you another Tunisian stitch. If you're not joining me in the crochet along, that's fine. Hopefully these stitches are helping you in whatever projects you're working on. Thanks for watching.